All right, we are gonna go ahead and get started. 5:01 here in Vienna, 11:01 on the East Coast. Welcome everyone to a brand new Anyline webinar. Very excited to have you all with us today. It's going to be an exciting topic, and yeah, about 30 minutes we should be done. So with that said, let's jump straight in. Today we are talking about, of course, as you know, advanced tire management specifically for fleet operations. It's an exciting time for the industry, and we have some pretty interesting things we want to discuss in this webinar, and should be pretty great. Before we begin, quick introductions. My name is Mark Babin. I'm the creative director here at Anyline. I will be moderating today's session. I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Chris and Hervig. Chris is the head of our US automotive sales, and Hervig is a solutions expert, and you'll see them there in the Zoom call as well with us today. All right. Now, before we start, we do want to encourage questions, and we love it when we get questions from you guys. It certainly helps not only us, but it helps to maybe address corners of the presentation you may have glanced over. So in the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A button. Go ahead and click that, and you can type out your questions to us. If you would like to send those questions anonymously, please feel free. There's a little button you can click, as we've circled down there, and you'll be able to send that question anonymously. So feel free to do that. Just be aware that if we run out of time today and we don't have enough time to answer all the questions, if you did send one anonymously, we won't actually be able to respond to you directly. Just make sure that you're aware of that before you submit that question. But please feel free throughout the presentation, and we'll address everything at the end. And with that, I'll hand over to my colleagues to begin the presentation.
Thanks, Mark. And thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us today. Very, very excited to talk to you about tire management, specifically within the fleet segment. Before we do that, I would like to jump into who is Anyline, for those of you who may be a little bit less familiar with us and the solutions that we offer. So Anyline offers solutions that ultimately help our customers to capture tire and vehicle information faster and more accurately. Now, the beauty of our solutions is that you don't need any special hardware. They actually are device and platform agnostic. So that means that using nothing more than the cell phone that you already have in your pocket, you can actually take full advantage of all of Anyline solutions. Collectively, our customers are doing over 1.2 billion scans annually, and there's around 20,000 technicians globally that are using Anyline solutions today. So you might be wondering, how can Anyline help my fleet, right? Well, there's three key themes that I'd like you to keep in mind for today. The first one is going paperless. Now, when we talk about going paperless, this is not something that's just good for the environment. It is good for the environment, right? But you'll see it's actually good for your bottom line as well, right? Businesses, in fact, that are using digital tools are 3 times more likely to experience revenue growth. And there's obvious efficiencies that come with using or going paperless as well. That leads us into the next segment here, which is saving time and reducing costs. In fact, we've actually done some studies, and using Anyline solutions, you can increase the speed of vehicle and tire inspections by up to 390%. We can do faster inspections, we can do more of them more accurately, and ultimately we can reduce downtime. And then the last thing here is compliance, of course, right? So how are we empowering our drivers to be able to identify tires and parts of the vehicle that are non-compliant that would potentially put the company and the driver at risk, right? So the 3 key themes I'd like you to keep in mind today as we move through the presentation. Now, when we talk about where are these solutions applicable, the beauty of Anyline solutions is that they're actually applicable across every segment of the fleet industry, right? So anywhere that there is an inspection of a vehicle that needs to be done, right, you can leverage Anyline solutions. So whether that's commercial fleet servicing, whether that's telematics and fleet management solutions, or whether you're even a fleet operator, right? So companies that are not logistics companies, but we've seen very interesting use cases from utilities companies and many with large fleets numbering in the thousands of vehicles where they need a better way to manage the tires within their fleets, and using Anyline solutions, they're able to do that at scale. Now, before we dive into the Anyline solutions, I do want to touch briefly on the top common costs for fleets. Now, when we look at fleets, no surprise, fuel and labor would be your top 2 expenses usually. followed by maintenance. And when we break that maintenance segment down just a little bit, what you see is that overwhelmingly tire maintenance is the number one item that typically pops up for most fleets. In fact, the average fleet is spending around $1,000 per vehicle annually on replacement tires. Obviously, depending on how much you drive, that number could be slightly higher or slightly lower. But of course, we know it still remains the number one maintenance item for the fleet regardless. Now, when we talk about costs, though, there's also some hidden costs. So there's three hidden costs here that are very hard to address. And I again, we'll keep with this theme, right? The first one being unplanned downtime. So obviously when vehicles, I like the quote, right? When the wheels aren't turning, the dollars aren't coming in. And so there's this big theme recently to have more predictive maintenance, right? And so we'll touch on that a little bit more, but having that predictive maintenance, there's some really key tangible benefits when we have the tools to help us effectively do that. The second one here, which is rather interesting, is fraud and theft. Now, we are a global company, and depending on what country you're in, this actually pops up more or less frequently. The interesting thing is it's not confined just to fleets, right? This is obviously something that's happening all over. There's an interesting news article not too long ago that came out of a dealership here in Texas. I'm in Texas, where $250,000 worth of tires were stolen, right? So we know that this is typically actually the number one item when you look at rankings of items that are stolen from vehicles. Usually tires and wheels are the number one item on that list. And then, of course, right, we know that compliance is not free. Compliance violations do come with a very tangible cost. And again, depending on the country in which you live, particularly if you're in the UK or the US, those costs can be fairly steep. In the UK, for example, a single tire violation is £2,500 and not listed here, but it also puts 3 points on your driver's license. So a very real cost, oftentimes that gets overlooked. Now then, what is the problem and why are these things not, historically, at least, why have these things not been addressed as adequately, right? Well, the first challenge is that as we look to measure the depth, for example, of a tire today, it tends to be fairly inaccurate, actually. And a lot of folks might push back and say, well, Chris, I've been using this manual gauge for decades, and it seems to be trusty and reliable. Well, there's a link here below, and this presentation will go out after, where we've actually been on site with our customers to walk them through the proper way to compare a manual gauge versus digital solutions, much like the ones that we offer here at Anyline, right? And what you see is it's actually fairly inaccurate. Surprisingly, we've seen up to 2 millimeters of difference for two inspectors inspecting the exact same point on a tire, right? So we know it's not fairly accurate. We also know that it's inefficient. If I were to ask anybody here, how long would it take you to write down on a tire the make, model, DOT, and tire size? We've tested this as well, right? And it comes out to almost a minute per tire, right? So imagine that times 4 tires of a vehicle times the number of vehicles that you have in your fleet. And it's not hard to see how that can quickly add up to a lot of time that is ultimately wasted by doing these types of inspections manually. The last thing we see here as a problem is this is simply unreliable. We know that oftentimes our drivers and really technicians have the best intent. And as a former technician, I know I always had the best intent. But the reality is that we are human and we are error prone. We make mistakes. And honestly, if we're being realistic here, when we're pressed for time, we tend to cut corners, right? So if that first tire was 5/32 of an inch, I might just assume that the rest of the tires are also 5/32 of an inch. And I think that that's a scenario that exists that is probably not too hard to imagine in most of your fleets today. Now, how are we addressing these things? Well, we're revolutionizing tire control. And when we say that, right, we're focused on these 3 areas, right? The first piece is accuracy. So today you will see our tire tread depth scanner, which has accuracy within 0.5 millimeters. For my friends like myself who are in the US who deal in 32nds of an inch, that's less than 1/32 of an inch, right? It's a highly accurate solution. And the beauty of the solution is that it doesn't matter who's holding the device. The device doesn't need to be calibrated, whether it's me or Hervig or Mark holding the device. We can all get the exact same measurement as long as we're measuring the exact same tire. It's also substantially more efficient, right? So one of the other solutions we'll dive into in just a bit is our tire sidewall solution, which with a single photo, we can return the make, model, DOT number, and tire size, which decreases inspection time by almost 400%. So substantially more efficient and more accurate data. And then the last piece, and this is specifically thinking about the fleet managers on the call today, right, is it's just reliable, right? You now have a verifiable way that you can guarantee that the inspection was done in the manner in which you wanted it to be done. The driver is safe, the vehicle is compliant, and you have that data to then leverage as well to make strategic decisions down the line. Now, these decisions, what do they lead to? Well, the good thing is there's been a number of studies that actually back up why you should be making the investment in these types of digital solutions, right? The first one here comes from Capgemini, which shows that in companies that have made these investments in using data analytics and IoT technologies have actually increased their revenues by up to 16%. Now, it's not just increasing revenues, though. We also know that predictive maintenance reduces maintenance costs by up to 12%. And that thing we talked about earlier, that secret hidden cost of unplanned downtime, by 30%, which I don't need to tell you what that would mean for your business. If you could reduce your unplanned downtime by 30%, what would that mean for you? A significant amount. And then the last thing we look at here is obviously with fuel being one of the leading expenses, understanding that we do have good tires on the vehicle, right, that are properly inflated leads to a tremendous amount of savings in fuel costs. So it's not just confined to tire costs specifically, but you can see that proper management really does have benefits that apply across the entire maintenance process and the entire cost structure of your fleet. Now, with that, I will pass it over to my colleague Hervig here to take you through some of our solutions and how they actually look in the real world.
Thank you, Chris. Today, I'm happy to present three core pieces of our technology of the Anyline portfolio. We do have many more products around the automotive solutions. So we do have a scanner for license plates, for example, if you need to identify your vehicle. We do have a solution to scan a driving license if you need to identify your driver. But today, we want to delve deeper into the tires. And I'm going to focus on how we can scan the tire sidewall, extract the information from the tire sidewall, as well as the power of the data we can have from them. So how does it work in the end? Our tire sidewall scanner, it's basically a photo uploader. So you can take a photo of the tire sidewall, upload it to our cloud, and you will receive back 4 values from the tire sidewall. You will see the tire make, the tire model, the DOT and TIN number, which holds a lot of information, as well as the tire size specifications. Then after we have done the tire sidewall, we are going to scan the tire tread to measure the tread depth of the relevant tire that we have just scanned the sidewall of. How does this work? So what we are going to do, basically, we're going to use the smartphone that most of your employees already have in their pockets. We are going to turn it into a tire inspection tool. We are opening the scanner, which will open a video, and then we have to make one video from one side of the tire, from one shoulder of the tire to the other shoulder of the tire. This will then be split in multiple images, and we can measure the depth of each of the treads. The result will take about 5 seconds, and in the end, we will also generate a PDF report to present the results. And last but not least, we are going into tire and vehicle analytics because we are scanning the tire sidewall. We have the information from the sidewall. Afterwards, we're going to take the tread depth from the same tire, and combining all of this data in real time holds a lot of information that we can leverage on. So the data capturing process I'm going to show you, that's what your fleets will be doing, your drivers will be doing every time they make a vehicle check. We will simulate a vehicle check in a few moments from now. And all of this data will come in real time into the product that we call Anyline Insights. In the Anyline Insights, we can cross-filter all kinds of information out of your tires. So, but without too much further ado, I would say we jump right into the demo. And for the demo, I will also share the screen from my test device. Here we go. So in a moment from now, you should be seeing the screen from my test device. Here we go. This can be accessed via the internet. So we have a website, scan.anyline.com. And on this website, you can test the solution yourself. I'm just having a short issue here sharing the screen. Stay with me. So now it should be back. Very good. Sorry for that. Okay, here we are. This is the tire sidewall scanner. You can see down here, these are some of the sample images. This is more or less the orientation that needs to be done to take a picture of your sidewall. We open the image and we focus on the tire sidewall. Then we make a photo and we use that photo. We upload it to our cloud and you can see it's uploading. Right now, the information is being processed and it's already completed. You also get the image of the tire with the result in a JSON format. So you can see the tire make. We are talking about the Michelin tire. It's a Primoussi free. We are having the tire size and the DOT TIN number. And that all comes within 2 seconds. Okay, and now we have identified the tire. The next thing we are going to do now is we are jumping into the tread depths of the tire. So this is our test depth. What we are going to do at this tire here, we are going to focus on one shoulder and then in a distance of about 20 centimeters, we are going to make a video of the tire tread. So we are opening the scanner. Now we are setting the focus point on the shoulder of the tire. Voila, now we are making the video. We are going over the tread, stop at the other shoulder. And now the video is being split in multiple images. These images will create an overlay. And with this, we can draw a 3D map to actually measure the depths within the tire. And here we have the result. You can see up here, it's a global value. And down here, we have 3 zones, the left zone, the middle zone, and the right zone. And where it gets really exciting is we can go to the details here. And here you can see an actual heat map, which is going to reflect all of the measurement points. I will be zooming in here a little bit, and you can see it's all little squares. And each little square represents a measurement point, of which we gather around 100,000 measurement points. And again, this is happening in a zone of 20 to 25 centimeters on the tire. So it's not just the measurement of one point of the tire, we are gathering all this zone. Yes, okay. Now we have basically simulated a tire check. We have done the sidewall to identify is this still the same tire that I put on my truck. We have measured the tire tread of the same tire. Now we can go back to the laptop and see what we can do with the data. Okay, now we are back here. I will be quickly sharing my screen. Voila. One moment. So you should be able to see the screen now. One moment. Here we go. Okay, I'm just quickly refreshing these pages here. So we can find the same tire that we have been scanning. Here we go. So here is a breakdown. We can see you can set up these categories to whatever you need them to be. Is it your long distance fleet? Is it your short distance fleet? Is it certain users, certain drivers? So whatever granularity you need, you can set this here. We can see that in the last 7 days, 39 tires that are below the recommendations that we have here in Austria have been scanned. So I could go down and contact those users immediately to take care to change the tires. When we go to the scan event here, the next graphic is opening, and you can see this is the exact tire that we have been scanning right now. We give the overall value here. We have the values for left, middle, right zone, and you have all the images stored here as well. So this is all happening in real time, and you can really control what your fleet is using out on the street. And now we have the measurement of the tread depth. We can also go to the tire statistics. I just quickly refresh this page as well. This holds a lot of information. So here you can see how many scans have been done for the DOT number, the commercial tire ID, the sidewall, and the tire size. You also get the geolocation stamp. And what is very interesting is the DOT number of the sidewall. It holds a lot of information, especially the last 4 digits of the tire are standing for the production year and the production week. And this can be leveraged. So you can see how much tread depth do I have on a tire of which age, for example. And sometimes if the tire is too old, you can also immediately contact the driver to change the tires. And here is also a visualization on the tires that are on recall, because sometimes there's something wrong with the tire and they have to be recalled. So based on the DOT and TIN number, we can identify if this tire should not be on the road and immediately flag that and give out the recommendation to please change this tire as quickly as possible. And this is just a small thing that you can do with the data. So whatever you need to know and understand about your fleet, the data is there. We can cross-filter it and get you the results that you are looking for. Yes, and with that, I would open the Q&A session.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the demo. It's lovely to see it in action live. It's always great to see, that this can happen in a real world just like that, as fast as you saw it. So really, really fantastic. And Chris, thank you for a lot of great information. And I think it really sets the tone that this is a reality that needs to happen, especially within fleet. So perfect. Let's jump into our Q&A. If you do have questions, feel free to type those out for us, and I'll be able to answer it with the guys here today. Now, one question we do get that comes up quite a lot, and Herwig, I'll direct this towards you, is of course, obviously we just did some scans with the phone. What are we talking minimum requirements for a device? Is there a certain requirement that shops need to have on their mobile devices or a phone in particular?
Absolutely, it's a good question. So normally it works on every newer smartphone that has been produced in, let's say, the last 3 years, as a rough ballpark number. If you need more details, we need an API level of 21. And for the video solution requirements, we need a resolution of 1920 pixels times 1080 as minimum requirement. Of course, the better the camera, the better for the solution in the end, but these are the minimum requirements.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And one more thing, we need a torchlight. The torchlight is very important because we have to control the environmental conditions. And with the torchlights in the distance of 20 centimeters, we can take care for the proper lighting conditions to get a good result.
Yeah, that's a perfect lead into the next question here, is obviously scanning in different conditions. And obviously we can't control the different conditions that people will be scanning in, whether it's dimly lit garages or maybe it's wet or a variety of other environmental conditions. How does the solution work out there in the real world? Of course, we just performed it here on a table in the office, but does the torchlight, I guess, is the real secret to that success, working in different conditions?
Absolutely, absolutely. It works in any environmental conditions. Since we have to scan the tire from a distance of 20 centimeters, the power of the torchlight is absolutely sufficient to take care of proper lighting conditions, so we can grab a good result.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Herwig. Chris, coming over to you. We talked about a few solutions, obviously, with tire sidewall and tire tread there. And then we alluded to, obviously, the license plate and a number of other automotive solutions in the beginning. How does it work to combine different solutions together? Are there pairs that you see in particular that work really well together that fleet operators can take the most advantage of when pairing them? How have you seen it on the market? Who you've spoken to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the great things is we, to the best of our ability, pun intended here, we try to be the one-stop shop, right? So when you think about a typical inspection workflow, it almost always starts with some sort of VIN or license plate recording, right? And so we obviously have VIN and license plate solutions. So really what happens is your existing workflow just gets enhanced. So as I'm the driver and I'm doing my monthly or quarterly inspection of this vehicle, I can just open up my existing application. And now rather than having to key in the license plate or trying to key in a VIN number, I can just walk right over and scan that off. And that'll immediately kick off my workflow. From there, then obviously it kind of follows a similar pattern to what Herwig has shown. So a driver might then go to take an image of the sidewall. That would collect that information, or in the instances of fraud, verify that that is the same tire, right? That it was when I did my inspection a month ago. So very important. You want to do it regularly. And then, of course, very importantly, I would move into the tread depth because I want to monitor that over time and see how is that progressing. That also lets me know as a fleet manager, hey, how are these tires performing in the market, right? Now I have data that actually definitively tells me where I should be putting my dollars towards, right? What types of tires for types of vehicles in certain markets, right? So very useful data that we can collect, but that's typically how a workflow would go. And then obviously in some instances, most instances, I would say for fleet especially, you want to collect the odometer, right? So just another Anyline solution that you can bake into that. You're already collecting this information. And that's why when we do our studies, right, that's really why we see it is so much faster, right? So things that a driver would spend minutes doing, we can do in quite literally mere seconds, right?
And with that data, then obviously that gets plugged into the system, however the user wishes, however the customer wishes, so that these data points you're talking about, actions can be made on them in real time, no matter where in the world, just because it syncs instantly with whatever system's in place, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's one of the great things, right, is especially when we get into that reliability piece, when you get into large, especially large dispersed fleets, it's incredibly hard to validate that inspections are being done the way that they need to be done, right? And so when I sit in Texas, but my drivers are in California or New York, right? How do I know that they actually did a thorough inspection of the tread depth of every tire of their vehicle? Well, this gives me a way that I can actually verify that, right? And it's not fakeable, right? You can't fake that you did the scan. You either did do the scan and you will have the results. I will have the results sitting in Texas and I'll be able to view those, or I won't, right? So I think it's a lot more reliable for fleet managers, especially.
Especially when we bring up that compliance topic again. I think it just becomes even more important, especially with the fines and potential changes in the legal landscape over the next year. Perfect. Thanks very much, Chris. So a question here on the tire tread scan itself. So we show 3 zones. How are those broken up? What happens if there's more than 3 tread on the tire? How does that work, Herwig?
This is a very good question, Mike. So at the moment we have 3 zones, and if there is multiple treads within one zone, we will return one value. We will basically take in consideration the measurements of both of the treads, but return one value. But this is not written in stone. So we are still researching, and in the future that might become customizable.
So as it works now, we're basically taking the 3 zones in our section based on the width and dividing that up into 3 categories rather than 3 treads, as it were.
Exactly.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you very much for that. What about detecting different types of wear? So we have a question here on, is it possible to detect damage or wear based on the tread depth?
This is also a very good question. So we can identify uneven wear. For example, if one side of the tire is worn down much more than the other side, we will detect it, of course, with the tire tread scanner, since we have our 3 zones. And with this information, we can generate PDF reports giving you an indication saying, okay, look, there's 2 tires with an uneven wear. This is an indicator of a misalignment of the wheels. And we can give the indication to please go to the workshop and check that. Same goes for wrong pressure within the tires, because this will also leaves a very certain wear pattern, which we can identify with the tread scanner, and again, give an indication to check on that.
Perfect. Thanks very much. And in those cases, I think it's really interesting to see example photos or examples from customers. So we'll go ahead and throw our emails on the screen right now as well. And with that, you'll be able to email us directly. So we'll go ahead and throw that slide on, and we'll be able to just email us directly those questions directly to our email. So there we are. Perfect. So yeah, please feel free to email us directly. Any specific use cases? We know a lot of questions are perhaps unique to your environment or unique to your specific workflow, and that's great to talk about directly with any of us. So definitely do make a note of our emails there, and it's a great way to, yeah, keep that ball rolling forward with your use cases. All right, so if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out, and we'll definitely keep having those conversations. If we have any more questions that we wish to ask, please feel free. We're certainly here. Looks like we have one on detecting damage on tires. Herwig, I think something we can explore. Where are we kind of at with being able to detect the damage, I think specifically to the tire sidewall on this one?
Yes, this is a very good question. It's coming up quite often, actually. And right now in our portfolio, it's not yet there, but we are looking into this, evaluating different approaches, how we can detect certain damages on the tire sidewall, of course. And we will inform all of you as soon as we reach any targets and find solutions for this task.
Yeah, I think that's a great explanation. And as well, we'd love to see examples of that specific use case. So whoever asked that question, if you want to email us directly, and we'd love to look at some samples and perhaps work with you on building something unique to your case in that particular instance.
Absolutely. Please feel free to contact me directly. So I would like to talk about that in more detail, and we can set up a meeting and explore options.
Perfect. So it looks like we have another question coming in. Is there a shareable template within the tire scanning application that will allow clients and users to seamlessly share tire information to customers by email or phone? I guess that would relate to the reporting feature that we showed, right, Herwig?
Absolutely. So in our test app, this is currently not possible. You can download the heat map, of course, but when you integrate the solution in your own systems, you will be able to generate these PDF reports and automatically share them with whomever you like.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Perfect. If you have any more questions, please feel free to keep typing them out or email us directly. Of course, it's the best way to advance those use cases forward. But I think that may be it for questions. Oh, we have one more anonymous attendee coming in. Perfect. What is the accuracy range of the tire dead drop scanner? So we alluded to it, but Herwig, maybe you can just hover over that one more time for us. Absolutely. So the accuracy is currently below 0.5 millimeter or 1 second of 1/32 of an inch. Yes, this is currently the accuracy. It might become even better over the time. The more data we gather, the more we can work on it. Absolutely. And I think that alludes back to what Chris was mentioning earlier with 2 technicians measuring the exact same point on the tire. That accuracy, when we look at an area of 25 centimeters of a tire, 100,000 data points, that actually is actually quite incredible. Chris, can you just elaborate on that point a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, right? Because like I said, we periodically we do go on site with our customers and we actually do this live, right? So, and we have a great resource. So please do reach out to us afterward and we can actually give you all the information you need to actually do a side-by-side comparison of these. But what we've seen is exactly that. There is a misconception that the manual gauge is actually going to be very accurate. We are specific when we do this. We literally put with a Sharpie on the tire a point so that we're all measuring the exact same point with the exact same gauge. And to my earlier statement, we've seen variances of up to 2 millimeters. This is not an exaggeration, up to 2 millimeters on the exact same point in the tire, right? And to Herwig's point, we are within 0.5 millimeter. So when you think about comparing the two types of measurements that you could do, one is obviously more accurate. There is no variance between Herwig or me because we are scanning the same portion of the tire, right? And so we highlight that because it's definitely an accurate way to do it. And to Herwig's point as well, we are working on getting that even tighter, and we hope that number will come down even more, but already within 0.5 millimeter, or for my US friends, 1/32 of an inch.
Yeah, over a large portion of the tire, which is actually quite incredible. And I would certainly encourage those interested to take you up on that offer to look into that resource, because I think it's the best way to physically show on site in a particular use case or environment. So I think that's fantastic. Are there minimum and maximum capacities with our tread depth scanner, Herwig? I think that's something you can probably address.
Yes, so at the moment, the tool that I've shown, it's tailored for passenger tires. For passenger tires, we do have currently a limit of 10 millimeter maximum tread depth. But I think the vast majority of all the tires fit into this category. And completely slick tires are currently not really included in the solution. So if you have the need to really scan bold tires as well, where there is basically no tread anymore, please get in touch with us directly and we can explore this option. Yes.
Yeah, a case we'd love to see more examples on in particular environments as well. Perfect. Then I think with that, our questions are wrapped up. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and bring this webinar to a close. It'll be emailed out to everyone. So if you did jump in late or you want to share this with a colleague directly following this presentation, give us about 45 minutes and I'll have it in your inbox. So nice and fast. Okay. And you can share it to colleagues as well and make sure that everyone on your team sees it and we can answer those questions directly for your team and get the process started. I think we're very excited for a lot of the new cases that come up. So with that, we'll thank everyone for joining us today. Hopefully you're having a great week and you've enjoyed this presentation. Chris, Herwig, thank you both for being with me today. It's a fantastic presentation and love to see this story come to life on webinars like this. So I appreciate both of your times. And with that, we'll bring things to a close. Again, thanks everyone. And you'll see the presentation in your email very soon. Bye for now.